Mike. Call this meeting to order. This is Town Council's special meeting on October 9th, 2024 at 7:01 p.m. We will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Why not? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Absolutely. Councilman Larson.
Here.
Councilman Dickerson.
Here.
Mayor Green.
Here.
Councilman Castillo.
Here.
And Councilman Burchard.
Here.
Mayor Green, you have a quorum of the council with all members present.
All right, thank you. First thing, we need to adopt the agenda. We don't have a very big agenda, but I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we'll go right on to action items. Thank you all for coming. This is a very important meeting. I think you'll find the meeting tonight is a lot more formal than we typically do it. So we have a resolution that's been given to us from Planning and Zoning, and to even discuss these items, we have to do things by statute and very specific. But throughout the entire night, we just want to make sure that people are respectful of other people. There won't be any raising your voice or shouting out or anything like that. We just need to act with decorum, and then we'll all be fine. So at this point, I'll go ahead and read the this statement. There's going to be a lot of reading on my end tonight, so I apologize for my poor reading skills. All right. A resolution has been passed by the Alpine Planning and Zoning Board calling for the enactment of an emergency temporary moratorium on the submission and acceptance of all petitions for annexation to the town of Alpine, Wyoming, and on the submission and acceptance of petitions for building permits in areas zoned multi-unit residential, R2, mixed residential and commercial, MRC, commercial, C, light industrial, LI, public and community services, PCF, and recreation and conservation, RC, within the municipal boundaries of the town of Alpine, Wyoming. The town will continue to accept, review, and process applications for residential buildings within all other zones. A special meeting has been called with notice provided to the public on October 2nd and October 9th, 2024 by public notice in the Star Valley Independent. The council will also call upon Sue Kolbus, Vice Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Board, who has asked to present the information and provide a basis for their resolution. The council will call upon Town Engineer Kevin Mahar to present evidence and testimony concerning the water and sewer capacity for the town of Alpine, Wyoming. After the Planning and Zoning and the town engineer have provided their information, time will be given to those who are in favor of the enactment of the moratorium and those who are in opposition of a moratorium. Each side, pro and con, will be given 20 minutes to present their testimony and evidence. Only 20 minutes. Pro side does have the option to divide their time to provide for rebuttal. However, under no circumstance will the pro side have more than the allotted 20 minutes. Con does not have the right to rebuttal. So basically, if the pro side wants to cut off at 18 minutes and leave 2 minutes at the end, you can do that. All speakers must rise, move to the podium, state their names, and speak to the council. No direct comments or other participants or questions directed at other participants is allowed. If a speaker has the need to ask a question of a participant, they shall address their question to the council, who will direct the question to other participants. Ms. Kolbus, Vice Chair of Planning and Zoning, you're up first, please. And if you could state your name for the record.
Sue Colbus, Planning and Zoning. Good evening, Mayor Green, Town Council, Mr. Sanderson, Monica. The Planning and Zoning Commission has brought forth resolution number 2024-33033 to implement a 6-month building and annexation moratorium excluding single-family residences to the town of Alpine. The purpose of this moratorium is for the immediate preservation of peace, health, safety, and welfare of the residents of this community, and to allow the town sufficient time to update and review a 2006 master plan, as well as assessing the water and sewer capacity studies, impact of traffic with recent and future annexations and development, assess density, the implementation of impact fees, along with infrastructure allocations on future growth. These issues directly affect outstanding will-serve letters and annexations past, present, and future. The need to obtain and study the data, along with environmental impact and overall community character, is paramount at this point. In essence, a moratorium on development is a tool that allows local governments time to pause, plan, and ensure that new growth is sustainable and beneficial for the community. This moratorium is intended to be brief enough to minimize negative impacts on landowners and long enough to provide time to thoughtfully consider necessary LUDC amendments and include genuine community engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll call Kevin Mahar with Jorgensen Engineering.
Mayor, council members, town, Kevin Mahar, Jorgensen Engineering.
Did you want me to bring up?
If you could bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we tried to do is last month we were asked to do a capacity study. So we looked at the water and the sewer systems. Overall, the sewer utility is the easiest to talk about really quick. If everything that the town has annexed, that they've given will serves to, was built tomorrow, we would be at a maximum day capacity of 92%. So if everything was built out tomorrow, we would still have 8% over. And that's at max capacity, everybody flushing the toilet, everybody using it, full capacity. So the next one is the water utility. So just by the irrigation that we have in town, the tourists that we have in town, being summer, being dry, winter not needing as much water, the pumps right now, we have 3 pumps over at the Grays River that run, that we typically talk about on this because it's the greater south of the town. There's a map up there if you want to show that too, Mayor. It's right there. Yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of what the wells serve. The teal is the Grays River wells. There's 3 of those. Right now during the summer, they run 24/7, 2 to 3 months of the year. So they never shut off. But then right now we're running 1 well at full time. So we're at 30% capacity right now. Sometimes when we get into February, we'll get down all the way down to 10%, just because we don't have the people, we don't have the irrigation, we don't have all the other things that are happening. So what we see right now is there's a need for the water utility to get connected to the fourth system that we have. It's called the mega well. It's called the mega well because it's got a large capacity that's rated for it. It's actually around 2,500 gallons is what it pulled in an 8-hour time, and it had a 2-foot drawdown. So basically we can get 1,500 gallons a minute out of that if we wanted to. We're proposing probably around 1,000, which would be the connection fee. Right now it's only pulling about 300 gallons. So you could see on that map, it's not connected, and it's not serving the greater Alpine service area. But what we'd like to do is we'd like to get that connected, so we would have 2 different options in a sense. We'd have the Grays River wells, and we'd have the mega well that they would combine together and give us lots of capacity. If you look at a 5% inflation as far as the population and growth, that gives you 10 years. If you look at a 3%, which is more typical what Alpine's been seeing, it gives you 15 years of capacity. So if you just did the Grays River well and tied the mega well together, that gives you 10 to 15 years right there. So of capacity, of growth. So then we've got another one. We've got another little project that would help us is the capacity of the storage tanks. You've got 3 storage tanks. One of the tanks, the way it's piped in, we can only fill it up about halfway. Otherwise, it overfills. So we only have 1 million gallons that we can store right now. If we had the other one, we could get another 250,000 gallons on top of that. So that's another project that if we can do some valves and some valving and some controls, we could catch that extra capacity there.
And that 1 million gallons, that gets us, let's say it's summer, it's peak time.
About a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that takes into account fire suppression?
If you have a fire going on, they use a lot more water at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, so. And then the other option we've got as far as trying to build resiliency in the systems would be to get a generator. Right now, the generator at the Grays River well can only run one of the 3 wells up there. So if we lose power, you automatically only have a third of the capacity in the general population down here. We've got a design that's coming up for Musgrove. It's a 300 kW generator that we would basically put that in the place of the existing 60 kW, and that would take care of all 3 wells running at one time.
Okay.
And then we could move that one smaller generator to the mega well, and that could run at that point. So by doing that, you would have full 100% backup for power. So
And you gave us estimates for that?
yes, we put some estimates in there. And then basically in the high-level summary, I mean, the sewer plant, you've got 20 or 30 to 40 years build-out capacity the way you're going as far as your population growth. It could change, and that's what we don't know. You know, there's no way for us to guess what that is. 3 years ago, when we had a 32% rise in alpine population, last year was 3%. The year before was 2.8. 4 years ago was 2.7. So in the average, you're probably around 3%, but there are some big years. What we see is the need right now is the water utility. Because with those wells running 24/7 during the summer, if any one of them shuts down for whatever reason, mechanical, electrical, it just breaks or we lose power, we're probably going to have to go into a conservation mode at that point pretty quickly. So.
And these numbers don't take into account the sure stay, because that's not online yet.
The sure stay itself,
Oh.
The extended stay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the extent.
Yeah, so these numbers account for everything that's been annexed or has a will serve in it.
Right.
Now, so it does account for that.
And the 100%, if we're already running at 100%, obviously that wasn't up and
Right,
running for this summer.
Exactly.
That was my question.
Oh, yes, I see what
Okay.
you're saying, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
With average build-out times, can you speak on more R1 versus MRC? It looks to me that R1 really doesn't move the needle very much as far as capacity usage versus a higher development like mixed residential.
It just have a higher density, yes.
Okay.
And what we did is we went through and, like the extended stay, they told us what their maximum flow would going to be in a day, what they
Right.
thought it would be. It's like 48,000 gallons, which for full build-out, which normal usage is 100 gallons per person, so you're really probably a third of that. So a lot of times what we do is we go by what they tell us,
Okay.
what's their maximum flow. So that's what we'll go by. So some of those numbers seem like they're a little inflated. Some of the other ones, we would look at MRC that we don't know what they're going to put in there.
Right.
And we'd have to make assumptions.
Okay,
So,
okay.
In summary, give us your,
I would say in summary, the wastewater treatment plant is doing well. We're going to do well for a long time. We've got lots of capacity there for everything that we've got. The water system is what we've got some needs for. Right now, we're fine, but it doesn't take but a little blip to create issues that we have to deal with at that point. But it's a need, yes.
Right. And if we have high growth, which we've seen at least in the past 4 years with COVID putting Alpine on the map, then that's going to expedite if we have larger developments.
Right, yeah,
Right, okay.
right. And that's why, yeah, I was just looking at the population growth
Right,
of it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
any other questions for Kevin?
So we're not going to run out of water in the next 6 months?
No,
Not going to overflow the septic?
No.
Or the sewer plant in the next 6 months?
No.
Sewer's good, but we need to work on water.
yes, sir.
Are we working on water?
Yes, actually, next week, we've got a certified flow meter that's coming out. It's going to be here Thursday, Friday, and we're going to verify the flow rates coming out of the wells. We've got one flow meter that's coming out of the well right now, so we can test one pump at a time, and we'll know exactly what the pumps are doing, and we know the run time of the pumps. So at that point, we'll know what we're pushing out, and then later this spring, early summer, we're going to have all the water meter readers out and running, so then we'll know what been consumed and what we've pumped. We can see if there's any leaks in the middle, or if there's no leaks, we'll have real data.
We're also going to be asking town council next week to approve to let our town engineer design the hookup for the mega well. And we will be submitting an application to the State Lands and Investment Board and hopefully get that funded. And so that application has to be in by the 1st of November, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So that's coming next week. And that is, as I think you can tell from this conversation, that's the most proactive step that we can take. So it's vital, important, that I don't know how quickly they could, we get the money and they can get it manufactured, but there's going to be a period of time. But yes, we are working on it. Hopefully we can solve this problem sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And like Midwest Assistance Program, that's helped a little bit. They've got some information as far as generators where we can use grants for that.
Yeah.
Homeland Security, I believe. So, but he's been successful in that. So
Yeah.
we're hoping to push things out and see if we can get some money to take care of these things.
And also just to address, we have been working on this, correct?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
This isn't new.
No, one of the first meetings that we had here with Jorgensen, that Craig was here with your public works manager, and he wanted this connection for this reason.
What's the reaction if you do?
We're not going to take any public questions yet, but we may have time later to address that. So any other questions for Kevin?
I just had one more for
Yep.
Kevin. When I had spoken with Craig during summer, and he had talked about, at the time, he didn't have your data, but he said he was running the trains 24/7 to keep up with the water demand. Is that something that you've seen historically?
Yes, actually, we saw that last year as well.
Okay.
And it's like, what was it, last June? You see that was it going like 650 instead of like 1.2 million a day? But we looked at that, but last year in June was wet. Lots of summer flowers, really nice and wet, right?
Not a dry.
This year, we were at that 1.2 in June, and it was dry.
Right.
So does it directly relate to tourism and, people and irrigation? You can draw some lines, but, that's where we're at. That's the
Okay.
capacity we're trying to get up to, and the mega well will take care of that. We can just tie it in right now, and it would help at 300 gallons a minute. That's 20% more. Or we could jump it up to 1,000 gallons pretty easily, and then we double our capacity. So,
And what's the estimated cost for, if you take into account all engineering design, just to tie in the mega
for the
well?
connection of the mega well is $808,000.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got another estimating company that's going to look at it and see if they can do a more realistic, because we did our engineer estimate on that one.
Okay.
So,
What
And
was the-
just by way of explanation, the reason we're doing that third-party evaluation on the estimate is it's a requirement to apply for the grant that I am working with WBC on putting together the grant proposal for the tie-in. And so they require this estimation process, so there is an extra step. So we're trying to get that done.
What's the match
It's
through
not-
this lib?
It's 90%.
90?
It's a
It's a
community-
10% match.
Excuse me, it's a 90% grant, 10% match.
Right.
It's community readiness grant. And I think, none of us can say whether or not it will get approved, whether we'll be the recipient of such a generous grant. However, I think it will be easy as we continue to put together this grant application to show a direct line between development and the growth of our town, which, as you know, the WBC, that's a priority for them, is to support growing communities and commercial, and
Okay.
mixed use. So,
Any other questions for Kevin? Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you for the total numbers,
Yep.
Kevin.
Okay, so now we're going to open it up to public comment. This is where we're giving 20 minutes per side. Please keep your comments as concise as possible, knowing that other people are behind you would like to voice their concerns or comments as well. Councilmember Dickerson is going to keep the timer, and I'll try to let everyone know when there's 5 minutes left or whatever, 1 minute left. So everyone needs to come up to the podium, state your name, and you'll be given the floor. And I'm sorry?
Pro for 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're only doing pros for 20 minutes, and then we'll switch over because that'll be too confusing. So we're going to do pros first. And anyone is more than welcome to come up, and as soon as we start talking, we'll start the timer. So anyone pro moratorium, please come up and make your case. We expected more people to want to state their case.
Sue Colas, again, resident Alpine. I just want to go over a few studies that I'm aware of that are in the pipeline now, that are coming, that are happening, that we've been asking for and waiting on. The water and sewer capacity study, as Kevin just spoke to. The need for the generator was, I think, a concern there as well. My understanding is there's a water master plan, a fully comprehensive report due August of 2025, an impact fee study, predominantly water and sewer. RFPs are out. I believe that will start in November, maybe take 3 to 4 months, is my understanding, and I'm trying to learn and get the information. Traffic study, there was a federal grant that has been awarded to the town that will initiate this winter and be done sometime in 2025. And the master plan, RFPs are out. We hope to start in November, and that is estimated to take 6 months to 1 year, is based on the meetings I've had with people in the town and all the other meetings planning and zoning has had in conversations with other people.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
My name is Shay Scafidi. I've lived in Alpine for 20 years, raised 2 girls here. And one of the dynamics that I hear around the community and why I'm speaking is just a lot of people asking how much more development can we take right now, and just what's, I think, thoughtful development. So one of the items, as I've been sitting in town council meetings, is if an area is experiencing an influx of certain types of developments, i.e. storage units or subdivisions, a moratorium allows local officials to reevaluate the economic diversity of the area, ensuring that other forms of development are not being neglected, master planning and incentives for job development companies, services, and overlays. So one of the items that I keep going back to as I sat in on budget meetings and things is that I think we're $1 million over budget this year. So what makes me nervous as I run for town council is the liability that comes back on the town if we can't service water to homes and such, or if on 4th of July weekend something goes wrong. I feel like that's our weekend where we just all feel it. So if we are short $1 million, we need 800,000, which I know could be 80,000 for the town. I think we're just at a budget crisis where we have to look at our land use development codes, impact fees, things that the R1 single family homes won't carry the brunt of these shortfalls for infrastructure. So that's really where I'm at. I've lived inside the town limits for almost 10, and I've lived outside. I've lived in unincorporated Lincoln County, Alpine for 10 years, and that's kind of where I'm at. Is I just think it might be just time to take a breath.
Thanks, Shay.
Oh, and one last thing, I apologize. I think the biggest thing too is, and I think you guys addressed it real quick, it's 6 months and not 6 years. I think Sue said it as well. This is not to penalize anyone. I really feel like this is just to give the town time. So.
Thank you.
Hi, Dee Conger. I'm a resident of the town. I think I've been fairly notorious with a lot of the people here. I've been actually a full-time resident of Alpine since 2011. really familiar with the master plan that was established in 2006. And I think we'll all agree that Alpine has radically changed since 2006. And I'm a pro-development guy. I mean, I would love to see this town develop into the beautiful place that it is, but it needs to be thoughtful. And really, my concern as a resident of the air park is not so much development, but the kind of development. And it seems to me like development in our neighborhoods has been largely driven by developer interest and not so much the community's interest. And my fear and my suspicion is that, the council and a lot of people in planning get a lot of pressure from developers who bring lots of money with them to do projects that benefit them, certainly, but not necessarily benefit us. And, this is why, again, I'm pro-development, but we need a revised master plan that reflects the reality of today. Today's Alpine is a lot different than the 2006 Alpine. So, I think it's really nothing to ask to do a brief pause for the town to raise money to do a very comprehensive master plan that really exemplifies all the assets this town has to bear. And this is in light of, even ignoring the issues we have with utilities. My master's degree is in process engineering. And you went up and talked about the sewage capacity being at 92% if everything was put in place. When you design a factory, you don't design to 92% capacity. I know you said that the sewage is not an issue right now, but if theoretically you have a 100% capacity and at full capacity be at 92%, then that sounds to me like an imminent crisis right now, even on the sewage side. Clearly the water is a clear-cut bigger problem. But sewage, if things happen, could be a problem as well. And so, again, taking a pause, developing a master plan, which will be critical, that's really driven by the community and not by developers. It's really, I think, in the interest of everyone involved. And I think actually you'll be hard pressed to develop a master plan in 6 months, so it might take a little longer than that. But I think, even anyone who's got a financial interest, taking a break while we all, chime in and come up with a master plan that everyone can agree on. And I think, Andrew probably needs to speak about, there's several communities that he brought to mind when I talked to him about this issue, where he said Island Park, Idaho is a perfect example, a beautiful place up on the way to West Yellowstone that just had this random, uncontrolled development that destroyed that town. And there's a lot of similarities to kind of what's going on here. This has been an undiscovered gem. Well, it's been discovered. And now we need to meter out how we develop the town to accentuate the positives of this town and keep away. We don't need 300 more self-storage or RV parks here. What we need is, some good commercial development mixed with residential development.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dean.
There's 13 minutes left.
Since my name was brought up, I thought I'd just sort of fill in. My name's Andrew Brooks, and I've been living in Alpine since really 2011. I've spoke, I think, at the planning and zoning meeting a little bit at the end and one city council meeting. But really, I think what this is about, it's a tale of two stories. You can look at two, I think, representative examples. One, Island Park, Idaho. The other, Basalt, Colorado. Basalt, Colorado is very, very close to what Alpine is. It's about a 4,000 population. They did a beautiful master plan in 2020, and Basalt, Colorado is extremely valuable right now. Island Park, Idaho, gorgeous place, better than Basalt, beautiful. But the opportunity there really was squandered because the way Island Park grew was very slow, incrementally. It never had a plan, and really a lot of the beauty is still there, obviously, from a natural perspective, but from a city and development and value perspective, a lot of value was destroyed over there. So Alpine really is in a very unique, very, very unique and highly sort of novel situation in that Alpine has the luxury right now of very pent-up demand for development. And you can see it in the requests that are coming through. And really what I implore for the city is if you want to create value and you want to have a town that looks right in 20 years, take a pause. hire the people who did the master plan for Basalt. Look at it. Look at it. It's available online, and you would be very proud to be part of a town that was developed with thought in mind. And they talk about concepts like density versus sprawl. I mean, very sort of basic, simple things. So Alpine is really at a Rubicon moment right now. You can decide as a council, do you want to have a town that turns into what Island Park, Idaho is, which is fine. It's not going to change my world. Or do you want something that over the long haul represents something like Basalt, Colorado, which is beautiful, highly sought after. I have a friend who's an orthopedic surgeon. That's my background. But I've done a lot of real estate development as well. They just built a world-class outpatient surgical center in Basalt. It is unbelievable in terms of the capacitance and the way it's sought after. So I really do think that this is a critical moment for Alpine to look at this, consider taking a pause. I'm very pro-development. Trust me, I'm a capitalist through and through. But I'm also interested in a bigger vision in the longer term, that everything turns out the way that everyone would possibly imagine and have everything that they want in this beautiful town. So thank you.
There's just under 10 minutes left.
Heather Goodrich, Alpine resident for 10 years, and I have kids that I'm raising here, and we also have 2 businesses in Alpine. So I'm concerned about us financially, probably more than anything. I'm really, really concerned. I really appreciate what Dee said. When I envision Alpine, I just wanted this be this beautiful place that we all want to go to. I'm actually from very close to Basalt, so I know what you're talking about. But my concern is mostly it's planning and it's also financial. So I want to talk about Mr. Funk's 33 acres that is on the 3rd reading, because from my understanding, the town will have to pay $1.5 million in water and sewer credit if that's annexed. So I'm concerned about the money. Where is that going to come from? And thinking about that, and also have heard that that would push us to 90% of the sewer capacity. I don't know if that's true, but like if that is, if that's built out to what the proposed zoning density is, that's a concern for me. I really want to think about what we're charging, and from my understanding, we don't charge impact fees. And our water connection fees are much lower than those of Afton, which I find surprising, given that it is definitely more expensive to build in Alpine. So just for comparison, for a 3/4 inch pipe in Alpine, it's $3,500. For a resident in Afton, it's $7,000. And then for a non-resident, it's $8,000. Going up to a 2-inch pipe, it's $10,000 in Alpine. For a resident in Afton, it's $13,000. For a non-resident, it's almost $20,000. I couldn't find information on a 4-inch or 6-inch pipe, but a 6-inch pipe for a non-resident in Afton is $67,000. So we are way behind Afton in terms of what we're charging, and we don't even have impact fees. These are the kinds of issues that before we jump into really large-scale developments, talking about schools, we need to figure this out. So
Thank you.
that's it.
My name is Josh Floyd. I'm a resident of Alpine. I've lived here for about 20 years. So I guess I have mixed feelings on this. And I guess I don't understand why this resolution wasn't split into 2 parts. Why don't we have a resolution for a moratorium on the annexation and then a moratorium for the commercial and mixed residential and R2 building permits? I'm in favor of a moratorium for the annexation. I do think we need to slow down the growth a little bit. I live on the hillside. I still don't have sewer at my house. So I think it'd be great if maybe we pause a little bit on expanding the borders and maybe look a little internally every once in a while and think about what we can do for the people that are already within the borders of the town. I'll save some of my comments for the con side here in a second, but I was on the Planning and Zoning Board for 6 years. I helped to rewrite the land use development code that you guys are working off of. During the time that we worked on that land use development code, we didn't hit the pause button. Everyone played by the rules that were set in place. And so I think that's maybe something that we need to think about. Let the people who have land in the town already continue to play by the set of rules that we have currently in place. If we don't like the rules, then let's change the rules. So, but I'll save some more commentary.
Okay, there's 6 minutes left.
Mayor, Council. My name's Paul Perry, resident of Star Valley for 6 years. I can appreciate everybody on that side of the table. I sat there when I was a Teton County Commissioner for a term, and I know the 80 to 90% of what you do is just routine, and the 10 to 15% that has big impact on the community at whole. So as I looked at this, when we went through the building moratorium in Jackson, it was, first thing, it ruffled my feathers. I'm a pro, get out of the government, get government off my shoulders, until I actually sat down, read, and looked and see what was going to happen. And that's what I think you're headed for right now, is you need to get the LUDCs, we had LDRs, and they had to be updated. Yours are quite behind what the growth that's going on here. 2 hotels, a medical center, all the developments coming in, that needs to be addressed with what's coming and how are you going to deal with it. Those impact fees are costing all your residents so much money. You need to look at that and say, how are we going to pay for that? You know, residents are paying for that. New commercial needs to pay for that themselves. So that's a big thing you need to look at. And as you update your LUDCs, there needs to be more community input. All the planning and zoning, where have all the people been for the last few years? Nobody's been coming to the meetings to actually give input. How much have they been coming to town council? And so I have to ask, get communities now engaged. Give it 6 months, let them all engage, and get your ducks in a row. So, great community, and there's a lot of possibility here, but it needs a little time.
Thanks, Paul.
Hi there, my name is Megan Rumsey. Thank you guys so much for your time. We really need you guys to step up and just do your diligence. There's so many instances where there are a lot of yeses, and if your answer is to jump to yes, I would like you to pause on that too and maybe think about, just really taking the issues into account. In the summer of 1998, there was an E. coli outbreak here in Alpine. It put Alpine on the world map. It was a huge, huge issue. 157 people were ill from that. 2 years later, there was a lawsuit. Most of the people affected were visitors to Alpine, and this was a serious issue that there have been studies by CIDREP, by the CDC, the EPA, lots of reports talking about Alpine, talking about the water tower on the hill over there, and I just want to live here. I want to live in Alpine. And lately there have been a lot of reasons for me to not want to live here because I feel like people don't care. And I like to see everybody here and thank you for caring because I probably care more than I should. We implore you guys to maintain some character in this town, come together and make some decisions together. If there's some force that's working outside of us that is undermining our ability as a community to come together, we need to stop and put a pause and think about what the agenda is with that force. If there is, sorry to name names, but a gentleman who owns a brewery that walks in with his own master plan for the community that is already rendered, we need to stop and say, you know what? We need a plan first. Somebody else has a plan for us. And that gentleman has 56 businesses or counting. Great guy, great businessman. But we need to put together. I will let somebody else speak, and I appreciate that, but we need to, come together as a community and maintain a character and a pride in our town, and also keep in mind public health and safety.
Thank you. So we have 1:40 left. Does anyone else want to make a public comment?
I'm Marlene O'Leary. I'm a resident of Alpine. And in the last 4 years, my quality of life has not improved. it's more travel and tourism to me. And, you know, I don't know my neighbors because they change every day. And the traffic situation and, you know, just trying to get from A to B and bicycling or four-wheeling or, you know, Alpine had me at just being here. And to me, it's more of a nature thing. I mean, every place I've lived, it's, you know, I mean, I went to Mount Pleasant, South Carolina when there were 6,000 people and it's burgeoning on 200. I might as well be in Miami when I visit my folks. And I can go on and on the places I've lived. But Alpine is very special and it doesn't need anything to me. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you. There's 30 seconds left. If anyone wants to make a real quick last minute. You have 20 seconds left, Troy. Hurry.
Okay, quick, short term, short story. Been here for 34 years. Alpine's beautiful, wonderful, great place. I'm tired of people coming here and telling us what we need. I don't think people from the outside coming into Alpine understand what we really like here. We like Alpine the way it is. We don't want Jackson Hole. We don't want a little Jackson Hole. We're not a bedroom. We've always been considered a bedroom community, but I don't consider us that until recently.
That's it.
You know, that it?
That's 20 minutes. Thanks for your last minute comment. Okay, now we'll, yeah, thank you. Sorry, I had to cut you off. Now we'll move on to the cons, and we'll stay with the same 20 minutes, and yeah, same rules apply. So whenever you'd like to come up and make a comment, please go ahead. Thank you.
Hello, Rex Dornbos, New West Building Company. I have lived here since '97, been on P&Z. I do want to thank P&Z, all of you members of P&Z. I've been there. I understand how hard it is. I think they are doing what they believe is best for this community, and having everybody show up is really a good thing. These discussions are great. We had a robust discussion last night at P&Z, which I enjoyed. Emily was there and showed up. Thank you for that. I'm kind of agreeing with Josh. What he said earlier is I'm not 100% sure why we're doing a broad moratorium on both annexation and permitting. Annexation is on you, town council people. You can take time as needed on that. There's no time frame, is my understanding. It's a negotiation between developer and the town, and that's how I see it. The permitting is allows people that own land come here and build what they believe they have the right to. I am right in the middle of doing a commercial development within the town limits, north of the bridge. We are in planned development. That's why I was at P&Z last night, to get some feedback from P&Z. It seems like they like the plan, and it's a commercial development. Offers opportunity for office space. It offers opportunity for one of my clients to have a fabrication shop. They can't be here tonight. They did send in an email, and I hope that's in the record. The timing on this pushes us back into getting them into their space in 2026. Not a year from now, it's going to be 18 months from now. It puts us into a winter build, a winter finish out. It's people that we want in our community, people that want to be here in this community, have the opportunity to invest substantial amount in this community, and this moratorium just squashes them. And I believe it shouldn't be done. I don't think there should be a broadband moratorium on everything we have going. This is growth. I'm glad to hear we don't have an emergency with the water and sewer. We are not in a state of emergency. We are in a state of growth, and we have been in a state of growth for 30 years. The people before us came implemented the sewer plant, implemented the water systems. Now it's up to us to keep that up and do the same. I would agree, however, we do need a master plan, and I have been pushing the town council for a long time for a master plan. But I don't think we need to stop everything to get that done. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Rex.
Yep.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Brett Bennett, town resident since 2008. Was also in planning zoning for 6 years or so, in a previous era at this point. I fully support the master plan and that reasoning. I think the town desperately needs it, but I do feel that the moratorium is too aggressive. I think it causes an unnecessary hardship to existing landowners who are already invested in this town. Someone buys a plot of land based on zoning and land use code. That investment should not be impacted by a 6-month moratorium that could cause them to lose the next season of building. They'd have to proceed at risk in permitting. When I read Jorgensen's letter, it says that this is not really a fire drill. In fact, I think pausing would just negatively impact existing landowners. And I feel that the most important thing to consider in my mind is the annexations versus the existing zoning. And so I'm echoing what others have said. I think the annexation is something to seriously consider. However, I think the existing properties and zoning is unnecessary hardship on those landowners. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
So there's 15 minutes left, just so everyone knows.
Good evening. My name is Randy Grill. I'm the president of Jenkins Lumber down the street. And I just wanted to remind you guys that I employ 31 people that live and work in your community every day. And we appreciate the business that everybody in this room brings to us, developing new properties and new ideas, commercial, single family, multifamily. All of those things benefit us at Jenkins every single day, and we appreciate that. And I feel like this resolution would stunt that. I feel like we would go through 6 months of no planning, not getting ready for the next phase, and by the time that 6 months came around, that we would be inundated with people that still own property and now want to develop that because that's why they purchased already. And I just don't want to see those people that have invested already in the community to be discouraged and want to sell off their land and move to another place that they aren't being held back. And so, I mean, again, we all really appreciate the business. We love it. It's great. And all my employees that live in town and out of town and travel here, you know, we are the reason, and these businesses are the reason that we all get to live here and don't drive to Jackson and don't go other places because of what's happening in the development that's being allowed here. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
I'm back. So I guess I kind of have like a quick kind of question. What is the current build out of town right now? Does anyone know? Like out of all the lots that we have in town, residential and commercial, what percentage of build out are we currently in town?
Don't know.
So I guess kind of a question for the planning and zoning is, why is the R2 being put in with the commercial and the mixed residential commercial? Like I can kind of understand a little bit wanting to hit a pause on the growth and the development, and I understand potentially the angle about the commercial end of things and the way that the mixed residential commercial kind of ties into that, but I don't really understand where the R2 kind of comes into that. I feel like we as citizens of this town, we enter an agreement with the town. The town creates a set of rules for us to play by, and then we are allowed to do what we can with our property as property owners within those constraints of the rules that have been set forth by the town that are currently in place. So I don't think it's fair to penalize the current landowners of this town and to hit the pause button and to say to these people that currently own land in town, you can't do anything with your property right now while we get our poop in a group. Again, I think the town needs to, if they want to rework the rules, do it. It's a work in progress. It's a living document, the Land Use Development Code, right? It's not set in stone. We make changes to it all the time. It's happened numerous times since I've lived here in this town. But I don't think that while you do that, you tell everyone, well, hey, while we're doing this, we're not going to do anything. I don't think that's going to encourage people to come to this town and potentially want to either buy or develop properties that already exist within the town. We have a lot of empty space along our main street. I would love to see that people get encouraged to build on those lots and, like, God forbid we start to create like a main street in this town for once. I mean, I just don't get it, I guess. So like, again, like I understand the pro side of this resolution, but I can't support a moratorium on issuing building permits to people who potentially already own land within this town. That's what I got. Thanks.
All right, thank you. 10 minutes and 30 seconds, Shay, that's all you get.
Okay. Only 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Hi, Shay DeMello. I've been in town and outside of the incorporated town for almost 16 years. I want to ask you guys a few questions. Do you know how many will serve letters have been sent out? Or is that a question for the engineer? Do you guys know that?
Not off the top of my head.
So the folks that have been working with you, say for 2 or 3 years, that have been working with you on annexing or building their property, their mixed use, their commercial, their residential, I feel like it harms them who have been working with you for years to try to annex into the town, number one, and or build, that you've been on the same page with them for maybe years to say, sorry, you can't build what you want to build for at least 6 more months. I want to remind everybody what Lincoln County Planning and Zoning just went through. They didn't have a planner for a year. There are so many property owners that were harmed by how long it took to approve subdivisions or anything within the county that it financially harmed people. There's one sitting in this room. It financially harmed him because he missed the boom bust, essentially. It's not very fair to say, sorry, we're going to just take a break for 6 months. Because what happens in 6 months when you have a stack of applications on your desk wanting to grow, and you can only approve so many at a time? How does that affect everybody? How does that affect landowners? A second topic is small businesses here. Everybody that works and lives here is almost a small business owner. They help thrive the community, and by shutting it down, by not building. And again, I want to see beautification of Alpine. I don't think we need to grow increasingly fast, but we can't just say, sorry, yeah, we've been working with you for 2 years. We're not going to give you the annexation approval, or, you know, you're not going to get the permit even though you've been working on it for 2 years, spending money on architects, engineers, etc. I don't know if that's a fair process. Number 3, you guys did create an architectural review committee. Is that correct? With Brett Bennett and Brian James to help make sure they have a really good process when they present to the board, right? Is that the P&Z board? So I think you're putting the steps in place. Stopping the growth with a moratorium might not be the best option for the town of Alpine, especially when we've had some pro-growth, which is great. Thinking about the future is also great. Planning for the future is also great, but completely shutting down, doing anything, I don't know if that's the right option. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Hi, my name's Dominique Bro. I'm a resident here of Alpine. And this is more of just a general question. I'm trying to catch up since I only got the text message yesterday and was really surprised to see this But I was surprised to see that public and community facilities and recreation and conservation are also on the potential moratorium list. And my question is, since we've been talking so much recently about a school, what kind of message does this send to the state, and is essentially not permitting a school part of this moratorium? I don't know if you're not allowed to answer or not. But if the moratorium goes through and we've been talking about a school and public and community facilities are on there, that basically shuts us out from having a school. So just something that caught me off guard with this. That's all.
We have 6 minutes and 45 seconds.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, and woman. Yeah, just remember the kids who have to wait at the bus stop at 7 in the morning, freezing their hands and toes and their nose when the bus is late. Let's get our own school, and let's plan for that. This doesn't take much land. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Any other comments? Going once? Going twice? Any other public comments? You have 5 minutes and 49 seconds.
I don't know if that's enough time.
I know.
I just want to start with saying master planning is really what Alpine needs to do, and we all can agree on that. And I think there's a misconception that this master plan is going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. And I don't think that's very realistic. I think if you had an RFP and you funded that today with a consulting company, 6 months from now, you might have some public input meetings. And then maybe 6 months after that, you might have a company starting on a master plan. And I think in reality, a master plan for a community like this will probably take 2 years from beginning to end, because you guys haven't started. So that's one thing. I think the other thing is Wyoming's a property rights state. So if I bought property in Alpine last year and I looked at the zoning and I said, okay, I'm buying this because I can build this, and I'm in Wyoming and I have the right to build, then a moratorium sends the wrong message. It's saying Wyoming's not a property rights state. The planning that you're talking about needs to happen no matter what. And over the next 6 months isn't going to change your ability to do that. What's going to happen is if you pause for 6 months, you're not actually pausing for 6 months. Let me give you an example. I know a developer here in the city limit that wants to do double the commercial space, which we need. And they want to do space so they can have another restaurant in town. So if you say pause, come back in April, and they can start that process in April, and then they have to go through a PUD or whatever they've got to go through to make that happen, then it's May, June, July, you're coming into August, maybe they could pour concrete. And then winter hits, our building season's really like 6 months long. So really it's a moratorium for more like 18 months in reality because of our seasons. And in this process, like, you can get the studies that you need.
3 minutes left, so you know.
Well, if anyone else wants to speak, cut me off. The other component I want to talk a little bit about is annexation. So really you have two options. Annexation to a town is a gift. And the reason I say that is whether it's 1 acre or 50 acres that someone's trying to annex, you have two options. They can go to the county and they can permit whatever's legal in the county, build it, and then at some future point come to some city council and say, annex us in. And you're probably going to say, well, we want the tax base, so come in. If you annex before they build, you have control over what gets built there. It's a gift. It's not just a gift tax-wise, you're getting the tax base, but you get to help plan what's there. So, yeah, everyone, you know, we hear annexation as a bad word. I don't see it as a bad thing. It gives you control over what happens with what will ultimately become within your city limits. So just some thoughts. I think we're not in an emergency scenario. The next 6 months pause is not actually going to benefit the town like everyone thinks it's going to, and we're not going to have that master plan in place to make that decision at the end of 6 months. So,
Thank you. There's a minute 22 left. Going once, going twice. No more comments? Okay, we'll call it there. So thank you, everyone, for your comments, pros and cons. They're greatly appreciated. We're here to listen, and I hope you feel like we've done that. At this point, we're going to open it up to town council to make some comments. I'll start off, and I'll reserve my right to follow up at the end. But so as far as timing is concerned, if we start the moratorium today, the annexation would be lifted on April 9th. It's not an moratorium, the moratorium would be lifted on April 9th. It's not a moratorium on planning. So let's dispel that now. All the planning can still happen. I expect on the first meeting after April 9th to be a line of people here to get their building permits done. You can plan, you can come in, talk to the staff, keep working on your plan. It just happens to be the next 6 months is during the winter. And I think it's a good time to take a pause. Regarding the school, again, this is not zero against the school or whatever. There's a lot of planning that will have to happen. There's contracts that have to be signed. Hopefully, we find out good news in the very near future. A lot rides on that decision. So talk of trying to stop a school or whatever, that's absolutely not part of this. And someone's going to have to design the school. They're going to have to work with the town staff to get it there. So I don't see that as a negative. And also, annexations that are in process currently with the town are not affected. So they will not be affected. They will keep moving forward. And I don't see that as an issue. In general, the moratorium was brought up because the master plan is so important. We are going to have opening of the bids next week, and we'll know hopefully we have a bunch of people that put in proposals. That could take 6 months. It could take 2 years. We're pushing for somewhere in between that. But we want to give the public the chance to have their voice be heard. And so I'm hoping somewhere around a year. The bigger thing in my mind is the impact fees. So we have a bid opening next week for those as well. Our plan is to have that pretty much back within 3 or 4 months, and then we will start the process to get the impact fee ordinance in place, which is 3 readings. So we think somewhere around 6 to 7 months, we should have the impact fees in place. But we will only be able to collect the impact fees when the building permit is granted. So it's very important, if impact fees are one of the biggest primary reasons why we're doing this, to have this moratorium, to put a pause on building, have a chance to say, for the current residents in the town of Alpine, if you're coming in, you need to pay this to keep our infrastructure up to date and so we can grow with you. That's going to be our chance to do it. And we have water and sewer studies happening. 6 months, in my opinion, is the right thing to do, and it gives us the chance to make sure we've got all this momentum underneath this and make sure we're doing things the right way. So that's what I'll say for now. I'll yield to anyone else in town council who would like to make a comment.
I have a question if I could pull Sue Colvis. Thank you, Sue. Winter seemed intentional on the side of planning and zoning. Can you just give us a little background about what type of building permits you see, the type of movement you see during winter? I know some commercial, there's some commercial building that can happen, but for the most part, foundations are not broken in winter at a high rate.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that was the beauty of the timing of this whole thing. The hookups, I don't believe can, I think come November 1st. Yeah, you can't hook up anyway. There's very little going on. I've been reading minutes from planning and zoning over the years, and Rex always mentions, yeah, it's, winter, it's a little slow. It's actually the ideal time to just take a pause and assess everything. For projects that are ongoing and they've got, their walls up and their foundation in place, they're going to keep moving forward, is my understanding. They're already in process.
Thank you. Do you have any?
As far as high density commercial, MRC and commercial development, what have you seen that's now in maybe phase 2? I know that we have Alpine Flats, so they've already pulled their building permit. We've got the extended stay, so they've already pulled their building permit. We had Cobblestone, that's obviously up and running. I'm just trying to understand what large developments we've had that we've missed the opportunity for an impact fee.
Well, we've definitely missed a lot. And I found it interesting. I went over the last 8 years of permits, commercial permits, MRC, which means multi-residential commercial. And I pulled residential R1, which is single-family residence, which is not affected by this at all. And it's interesting, since COVID, the MRC has kind of exploded. We're seeing a lot of activity there. And the commercial, I'd actually like to see more of that, because the impact fees are so important. And there are projects that are coming at us that are going to be a mix, and they could be potentially mixes or not. But I think this town's missing a tremendous opportunity by not implementing impact fees. This town has to support the infrastructure. We have to support the growth. And if we don't raise the money, property taxes isn't enough. My personal opinion is I'd like to see more commercial building. The sales tax revenue that this town is losing is in the millions of dollars. It's going to Jackson and Idaho Falls and potentially Salt Lake City. We're missing out on millions of dollars of sales tax because we don't have the commercial infrastructure. And that creates jobs as well. And it creates a sense of community. I agree with a gentleman who said to me at the last meeting, a school is the soul of the town. Totally get that. I agree with that 100%. But you know what? The commercial center, a downtown center where there's restaurants, art galleries, shopping, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's the heartbeat. We need a heartbeat in this community.
Sue, please keep your comments.
Oh,
related
sorry.
to the-
Sorry.
Sue, I'll
Sorry.
focus.
Sorry, I'm tired.
And
I'm
last
kind of tired, to be
question.
honest. Sorry, where
Last
was
question.
I?
For those that aren't familiar with impact fees, I know that we had a town council meeting and we dove into it. It's been enlightening for all of us. But can you just give a brief summary of what an impact fee is meant to offset on the form of residents? And then if you've seen any surrounding communities that have faced this challenge as well and have implemented impact fees.
I don't know, Dan, do you want to tackle that? I'd like to have Dan speak to some of this.
Okay, thank you, Sue.
Figured I'd be up here sooner or later. Dan Scow, Planning and Zoning. So let me get back to the first question. You wanted to talk about impact fees on what we're missing out on?
Well, I just wanted to see what had already been built that perhaps we've missed
Okay.
that opportunity.
So everything MRC and commercial. So let's say the extended stay. You missed 60,000.
Yet to be determined what that rate needs.
Yeah,
Right.
but it needs, but comparative to other communities.
Okay.
Anything commercial, MRC, anything big unit developments, any annexation, it's going to impact your infrastructure. You would be paying up north they pay an absorbent amount to do that process. I can't dictate what that's going to be. You guys get to do that. But I think it's a missing link in what we can tap into for revenue. And it's been missed across the board here. And we've heard it from other people in council meetings who've come up and said, if I was doing this in another community, I'd be paying a lot more. So I think it's important that we look at it together, planning and zoning and the council. And the other part of your question was,
Oh, if there's surrounding communities that had implemented impact fees as
oh
well.
yeah. For as much development as we've had here, I'm surprised we didn't do it 5 years ago.
So Jackson and
Oh, they've been doing it for a long time.
Afton, am I correct?
I mean, you talk about Idaho Falls, Victor, all big cities have it all over. It's not uncommon. The bigger cities, San Diego, California, Denver, those are really large numbers. So it would be a way for the kitty to help the infrastructure that we're going to hook up a mega well. I get it. We're struggling.
Right.
We're
So
a good
higher
struggle. It's
density
a good struggle.
developments. Right.
It's
More
a good struggle,
commercial.
but, we're a little weak in the pockets.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, that's everything. Thank you, Dan.
Do you have any other comments?
No more questions.
Any other comments from town council?
Oh, I can go on. I want to thank everybody who's reached out to me. I've tried to call everybody back, with the exception of a few who I won't return calls because of their behavior. They may know who they are. But I've tried to return every call, every email. I've definitely read everything. And thank you for taking such a strong interest. And I know this board, P&Z board, really, does their due diligence. I'm sure this board knows that their spouses know that, at least mine does, like, why the hell are you doing this? This is ridiculous, so much time that you're devoting. But it's because it means something to everybody here. We're here for an emergency. That emergency being what was brought up in P&Z is sewer, water, master plan, water study, sewer study, a traffic study, impact fees. And what I've looked into over and over again is, yes, it's needed, but is it emergency? And for me, emergency, I go back to emergency medicine, meaning you have either a healthy patient, a walking wounded, an urgent patient, or an emergent patient. Healthy patient is just that, someone who's healthy, walking around. Walking wounded is someone who's injured, but yeah, it's a scrape, maybe a sprain, something like that, no real life threats. Urgent is someone who is sick or injured, but no life threats. Emergency is someone with life threats. If something is not done, the patient will die. In this case, the patient being the town of Alpine. So far, what I've heard is there's no emergency. The biggest is our water. Our water I would classify as urgent. Are we doing something about it? That's the other thing that kept getting brought up as I watched these P&Z meetings. Nothing's happening, nothing's happening. Well, I hope you take tonight that this board has been working on it. We have been working on a water study. We have been working on a sewer study. We're initiating a comp plan. We're looking at impact fees. So we're already being proactive. It's not, we're not doing nothing. We have been. So again, we're already got that ball rolling, not an emergency. As a political figure, if you will, to some you're a villain, to others you're a hero. I want neither. I want to find out what's going on and how to help it and help our community. A couple of things here. One, of correction. The town is $100 million out. Okay, the town has 3 different accounts. They have the general fund, the sewer fund, and the water fund. The general fund, and please, treasurer, as your role.
So I am at times troubled by the language that is used, and I recognize what the intent is. We are not over budget. That is incorrect language. I understand what the sentiment is. The town general fund has obligated, if necessary, to lend $1 million to the sanitary sewer fund. So that monies are budgeted, and yes, the sanitary sewer fund is certainly struggling just because of the overages with the pretreatment plant obligations, and that's a necessity. It's almost to the finish line, right? So it will happen, I think, in January. So just to make sure if there's any additional overages, the town council made an obligation to lend money to the sewer fund if necessary. So that is not over budget, it is budgeted. So it's just a different way of borrowing money. The town does have restrictions on how they do that. So,
How much money do we have in the general fund right now? Approximately.
So in the operating fund, which is all 3 funds combined, there is over $4 million in cash.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, to talk about annexations. So the point was made of, we have a piece of property, they can choose to annex or not choose to annex. As a property owner, if you choose to annex, then you're agreeing to, if you haven't billed yet, ideally you're agreeing to abide by what we've set up in our LUDC, what we'll have set up in our architectural review. Again, another step that the town has taken to address our current growth. And what you also agree to do is pay your 5 mills to the town. If you choose not to annex, that's fine. You go by the county, and with the county, depending on your sewer and water, if you have to hook up, it's still a hookup. You pay 150% of the hookup fees as residents, other than residents would. But you don't pay that 5 mills, and you build to the county standards, which are much more lenient than the town of Alpine. So if we're looking at a property that wants to annex in, then we as a board look at those pros and cons of what we would like to see. Does it make sense? There's certain annexations that benefit a town versus none, meaning like if, say, you want to annex a business park, that's generally more advantageous to a town to annex than, say, a residential area. The meaning is because the business park generally have lower cost of services. Meaning there's generally little streets and roads that the town has to maintain. Emergency services generally aren't there with a business district as opposed to a neighborhood. So there's a cost-benefit analysis that you have to kind of go through. In this case, we've all been talking about the 32-acre Alpine Lakes. If we annex Alpine Lakes, what will it cost us to annex Alpine Lakes from the treasurer's point of view?
So Alpine Lakes, there will be no expense for credits. So I think that it's an obligation in an agreement that the town entered into, and Jim, you may want to speak more to that because you're the legal, but from a financial standpoint, my understanding is that it was a trade. They provided infrastructure worth $2 million to the town of Alpine, and in exchange for the $2 million infrastructure, there are connection fee credits. In the case specifically of Alpine Lakes, they have 180 ERUs, equivalent residential units, or you do, which ones do you do? EDUs, ERUs?
ERUs.
Yeah. So 180 sewer ERUs and 180 equivalent to 3/4 inch water services. That's what they have. Now, the legalities that come with the agreement are still being worked through.
Right. And that's what that's what you do with any annexation. That's why you go through 3 readings. It's a back and forth. We can choose as a council, maybe maybe we see this and we think the density should be lower. Maybe we think the density should be higher. We look at Alpine Flats, and a historical perspective several years ago, there was about this many people beating down the drum of, we need more housing for people. We need more housing for workers. Thus, Alpine Flats got approved. So we go through the cycles of ebb and flow depending on the market. As people have said, I believe government should be out of the market, and I wholly believe government should be too. Government sets in guidelines. You follow within those guidelines that the community believes that should be set forth, and that's how you do it. But in my opinion, government doesn't go, nope, or the opposite. We don't go, we've decided to put a moratorium on the LUDC, build as you will, and let's let that happen. And we also go through cycles. We talked about, oh my God, the influx of COVID migration to Alpine. What we haven't talked about was, oh my God, the deflation of the Great Recession from 2008 to 2014. That's where 1 out of every 6 homes were either vacant or just not around. And people were going around just asking for work, stopping in at Jenkins Hardware going, hey, have you heard of anybody needing any help today? So we go through these cycles. And in my opinion, we don't just stop or go. We let the market do itself. Also, back to the annexation. So it's not going to cost the town $1 million to annex Alpine Lakes.
No, but the only actual cost that's likely to be incurred by the town of Alpine is the engineering costs from their assistance with my creation of the annexation report. Alpine Lakes their annexation came into the town in advance of our new annexation ordinance, which pushes all of those costs back to the petitioner. So yeah, there is some costs, but I
Is
tried
there
to,
over $1 million?
No, I tried to do most of the work myself so that we saved money.
Thank you.
Just to
And-
clarify, we're not going to be paying $1.5 million to
Exactly.
have an annexation come in and hook up.
Exactly. And with that specific, they're already set up with their sewer and water to come, whether they annex or not. Is that correct?
That is being looked at by our legal counsel.
Still being looked at? Yes. Okay, thank you. And that's also part of the mega well, that regardless if they annex or not, we're still working on the mega well, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So, be it that one or any of new annexations, there's a whole process that this board and P&Z board definitely go through. This board definitely being more the decisive board, as P&Z being more the advisory board. So as I look at this, and in my eyes, I get it. I've lived here going on 15 years through the good, bad, and the ugly. I know when people are here. how busy it is moving in. I'm the one who keeps making the jokes about putting the roundabout on the highway in Grays River Road, because one day it'll happen. Probably won't, but one day. So I definitely understand, but I also want to make it clear that this board is doing something about it. This board is active. And I would say make this board more active. You know, if it comes down to impact fees, you know, we can, as long as we get the right formula, it doesn't need to take 3 months. We can do special meetings to enact that. We can get things under 2 months with advertising and everything that goes. But
For the council part.
for the council part, right. So we don't need to take a pause on those impact fees. And finally, and I've had multiple people come to me. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, stinks like a duck, swims like a duck, people coming to me going, why is this about the school? Nobody wants this about the school. It's not about the school. Again, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, stinks like a duck, you were throwing on community, public property in the park to try and take it off of the school. I know the state charter school is looking right now at this meeting. It's not lost on our community that, oh my gosh, why would they do this to the school? Whether that's the intent or not. I questioned the meeting of how this came about. We had a public meeting, a scheduled public meeting on a Tuesday, and somehow Monday got on the agenda of, oh my God, we need to have a moratorium. Let's get the room packed full of people for a moratorium and keep it under the down low of nobody against, because that's what it was. I would remind people, I would remind people of those who sit in these seats that Wyoming does have a public meeting law. And that means that no majority can meet. That means 3 of us can't meet, 2 of the P&Z can't meet. So again, maybe that's not, but again, if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, quacks like a duck, I don't think it's a swan. Other than that, that's all I have.
Well, with that being said, any other comments from anyone else on town council?
I'd just like to say, I kind of echo Jeremy's concern that how much of an emergency is this? It's, yes, we need to slow things down a little bit. Yes, we need to take a little bit more care, but I don't think I agree that it's an emergency. We can, as was stated by someone, Mother Nature is kind of giving us that opportunity to slow down because not a lot of building can happen over the winter. But I also agree with the comments that I don't think that we should be punishing people who currently own property and not let them do what they want with it during this time. I think that we have tools that we can utilize to kind of slow things down, take a better look, and work forward without stopping the presses. Master plan is definitely needed. It's going to come along. We're going to get that done. And I also kind of wonder why I would have liked to see the moratorium presented 2 separate ones, one on annexing and one on building. I think that would have made more sense.
I agree with Councilman Burchard about the separate moratoriums as well, not to punish the people trying to build more of the annexations. And I agree with all those words Jeremy said, so which was a lot. So that's my thoughts on that.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I want to say that I very much appreciate all the time that planning and zoning has put into this. And I think it came from a pure place because I hear constantly from residents, I don't recognize my town. I don't know what's going on with building. Now, a lot of that has to do with community engagement and communication and transparency in general. But we've moved at an incredible pace. And now I feel like we've come to a time where there may not be a perfect solution, but I think that we owe it to our residents and to ourselves that we give ourselves a chance to take a break and to really get that community engagement for a master plan. My fear is that with these large-scale developments, which I think this room has heard, a lot of people are pro-growth and pro-development, but in a thoughtful way, that there will be costs transferred to residents. We are already at a 5 mill levy because we have a fire district that takes up our remaining statutory max. We cannot increase our mill levy as a town. So we can't increase our property taxes unless something changed with the fire district. Fees, usage fees, they will never amount to what our cost to expand our infrastructure will be. ARPA grants, I just read, and I have been talking to the governor about how state funding works, and there's a lot of data and there's a lot of fear that statewide grants will be starting to diminish because our mineral deposits and our mineral revenues have decreased significantly. So for me, I've had a lot of discussions with planning and zoning. I try to show up to as many meetings as I can. But for them, they're really seeing the numbers of where we're at today. Do we have room? Absolutely. But once all of these developments are built out, once the subdivisions that our town has always planned for are built out, what is the cost to the citizen? So I talked to them because I said, where does the 6 month come from? So when we were learning about impact fees, it looks like for the research side alone, there's 2 phases. The research side would be anywhere from 2 to 3 months. That's if we really put the pedal to the metal and we tell them this is extremely important for our town. We do not want to create any pauses that are unnecessary. And they said, yes, you could get an impact fee study that was comprehensive. Whether you want it to just be water and sewer, you want to look at traffic, you want to look at your road usage. We have an incredible amount of people that come through our town now as well as tourists. We could do that in 3 months. And then we could have a special meeting and we could try to push that through. Again, being respectful of open meeting law and making sure that our community is involved, that would probably take another 2 months. So this 6 months to me, when I really dialed into where are we getting this number, where are we getting 6 months, it was based off of winter and it was based off of how long it would take us to implement impact fees. Because I do not feel that it is fair that citizens have a changing town, whether they are very much in favor of that or not, and that they are shouldering the cost of expansion to our facilities. And it would be water and it would be sewer. So if I look at a $20 million, that's today, that's breaking ground today. Do we need that right now? No. If it's $20 million today, what's it going to be in 5-10 years? $1.5 million, $1.44 million for a mega well tie-in? That's today. What's that going to be in 3, 4, 5 years? So my vision is more long-term. I know that this is an uncomfortable solution and maybe it's not perfect, but I am very much in favor of giving our town the time to breathe, to take some pressure off of our staff. I think many of you know, you can turn this job into autopilot or you can turn this job into 40 hours where you really, really try to engage with residents from both sides, all different perspectives, and make sure that you're their voice because we work for you. We're hired by you. So I really appreciate everyone coming forward today, and I think that this really did come from a place of truth and a massive long-term, long-reaching benefit to our community. So I appreciate that a pause was brought up.
All right, thank you all for your comments. At this time, if we were to move forward with an emergency ordinance, we would have to suspend the rules because by statute you have to have 3 readings with 10 days between the first and third reading. I think I know how this is going to go, but I think we still need to get it on the record. At this point, I move to suspend the requirements of Section 15-1-115C of the Wyoming statutes requiring 3 readings of ordinance and 10 days between first and third reading.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded. The motion has been made by the mayor and seconded by Council Member Castillo to suspend the requirements of Section 15-1-115C of the Wyoming statutes. We will take comments at this time. Basically, we're going to limit this. I think it'll be a really quick discussion, but if anyone has any pros or cons to suspending the rules, I would like to hear it now. Pros first.
I just had a clarification question.
Pros first. What's your clarification question?
When I heard you say.
Mario, will you come up to the?
I heard you say way back a while ago that the annexations would if the moratorium is passed, the annexations continue?
Is this a clarification question on the suspension of the rules subject right now?
No, it's a clarification on what
Then
you said 25 minutes ago.
We'll give you another chance to say
Okay.
that, maybe.
Okay.
So this is basically just taking comments on suspending the rules. Does anyone have any comments?
What do the rules state?
The rules state that we basically have to have 3 readings of an ordinance. If we suspend the rules, then we could have an ordinance in place. An ordinance is a law. Tonight, we could have an ordinance in place, and that's where we would say the moratorium is in place for 6 months. This is only to suspend the rules. This is not voting on a moratorium or anything right now. This is only to suspend the rules. If we suspend the rules, it would allow us to put in place an ordinance tonight.
You all just talked about community engagement. If you suspend the rules tonight, you're limiting community engagement because the people that are not here.
Okay, thank you for your comments, but if you want to make a comment, please come up to the, so it can be heard at home. Is this a pro comment or a con comment? I'll take all pro comments first. If there's none, we'll move right into cons. Okay, go ahead. We have 10 minutes on the cons.
I just wanted to kind of back Randy up. There's a process, and I think circumnavigating around the process is not the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
I just got the text about this meeting. I think it was yesterday or this morning, or maybe yesterday. Anyways, I'd already missed the October 3rd deadline. You know, when I read it, and I thought, well, I already missed the October 3rd deadline. So I would say to go through the process that's in place.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Maureen.
Any other comments on the suspending the rules? Since there's no further comment, all those in favor of suspending the rules on said motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose, say nay.
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 So that is 2 to 3. The nays have it. So at this point, we could do the first reading of the ordinance.
No, I don't
You
think
can't?
we move on.
We're done.
Okay.
It's nays have it.
All right. Sounds like it was stopped right there. So that's going to make a quick ending to this meeting. Is there anything else we need to cover, Mr. Sanderson?
I just want
Make
to
sure, yeah.
clarify, suspending the rules is also part of the rules, okay? So we're not trying to do anything underhanded. It's a question of these dear people who you elected to decide whether there was enough of an emergency to suspend the rules. You've obviously seen the majority said no, okay?
Thank you, Jim.
Why is it that we can't have a reading of the ordinance?
Because
It was set up as an emergency ordinance,
you were set
correct?
up as an emergency and you have 3 people who said this isn't an emergency.
Right.
Okay.
So at this point, I think if we see this as something, we'll take your comments and maybe we'll consider breaking up the 2 parts of the ordinance, and we'll just see where it goes from there. But we appreciate everyone's comments. People at home, thank you so much for writing in, calling in. Thank you for being here on a Wednesday night. So at this point, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Mr.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded.